Well, greetings and welcome to another fantastic week in the world of Flesh and Blood. It's not. I want to say not as exciting because that kind of detracts from the fact that there's not excitement. There is still excitement. It's just
Yeah.
this week we didn't have the huge drop like last Thursday when we were doing this, and it just happened to be like a bombshell of an article dropping right there. So today we're gonna talk about a couple of different things. We have first and foremost we have Alex. If you're not familiar with Alex, how's your week been?
It's been good. It's been good. Just, got back from hanging out at the LGS yesterday. Played a couple rounds with the TO while he was doing all the TO things and hanging out with the community out here in Colorado. Went 2-1 at my armory on Monday. That was pretty good. Vincent is continuing to be such an incredibly fun hero and probably who I'll pilot when I go to Nats. I'm not playing in Nats. I didn't qualify for Nats, but like the calling maybe. I'll go do
Nice,
that.
nice.
So.
Yeah, I missed my armory the other day. I had to do some other additional work, and I kind of told the guys I wouldn't show up. But
Mhm.
it sounds like it is the same core group of people, at least at mine. So it's kind of the same decks we've been
Nice.
seeing. Which I think I'm gonna start trying to switch up my deck. It's not. It's such a weird thing. I want to actually. That's one of the topics I was going to talk about today as a walk-on topic. We'll come to it in a minute, but there's a variety of heroes in this game, and it's interesting to start to experiment with other decks in those capacities, but we'll circle back to that. Um, so I wanted to kind of maybe for those that have not watched any of these videos in the past, I've recently been exploring on the YouTube land kind of the dichotomy or the ecosystem of kind of what is still around or there's new players coming to the market all the time, new content creators. There's people that have kind of fallen off and are no longer making content. Some podcasts like the Living Legend podcast have wrapped up. M&R podcast has wrapped up. Those aren't
Mhm.
a thing anymore, but Roger that as an example has come out of those I'll call ashes or whatever, pun,
Mhm.
phi pun, sorry, that was my joke there. But there's a lot of interesting content creators that are out there, and some that are even in spaces that are not necessarily people I've even heard of. I think I shared a video with you earlier where it was a creator that had about 1,000 subs, and you had a 30 or 40,000 view, basically trying to ask the Magic players, hey, have you tried the game Flesh and Blood? And it's really interesting to see now that again we're over that 5 year mark, right? We've passed that 5 year Flesh and Blood area, and we're starting to
Mhm.
see other folks that are in different maybe I don't want to say card markets, but different verticals within the system. So Magic creators, Yu-Gi-Oh creators, they've talked about it before, but now there seems to be a growing interest tipping into and including the fact that some of the newer sets are hype. Like there's and that's another topic I want to talk about today is we are at the hype pinnacle right now with the Necromancer, and I'm getting Mechanologists back, and we're getting pirates. Like, I mean, this is like top shelf whiskey or top shelf bourbon, whatever you drink. This is like
This is
uh
Scotch, my man. This
I,
is.
I don't know how
Whew.
they're going to top this next. Like, I know we got Guardian Mastery Pack coming, and for again, kind of to circle back to I know I'm going all over the place here, but to circle back for those that don't know, LSS released at their keynote some information about kind of their timeline of product releases, and we really only know vaguely up until around the Gen Con era, which is about August, will be when that is. So
Yeah.
because we only know up to about Gen Con, we only really know that we had the Hunted, now we have High Seas, we have the Guardian Mastery Pack, and then past that, we're really not sure what the next couple things are going to be for the back half of the year, which could be anything. So I don't want
We
to
still have
get
a
into.
set. There's still another set towards the end of the year that we have set up that we don't know anything about. Like there's
Absolutely.
a lot. There's a lot that's going on throughout the year, and I know that it is so funny how like we've gone from part the Mistveil, which was pretty hype, right? Obviously, the introduction to Japanese market and also like a new talent and everything there, heroes that dominated the meta. Then we went to Rosetta, Return to Aria, a lot of people's favorite set, or their set that they were introduced to initially, blew up in the market itself and continued to provide hype. The Hunted was released, and like nowhere, like still hype, but not anything initially hyped. But the market loved the Hunted. I mean, like
Loved
loves
it.
loves the Hunted. Like, and so like even then, like even with it being a set where like you might not want to play Arachne Marionette, or maybe you are, you're not really a big fan of like Fang or Syndra. Regardless of the fact that the boxes are flying off the shelves because there's such incredibly good cards inside that set, and the Marvels are super pretty. You've got access just to all these like wonderful generics in the set. Command and Conquer got a reprint in the set, which is again probably another reason why it's flying off the shelves. Like there are
Absolutely.
huge amounts of wins for that set, and so for them to follow that up with something that LSS didn't even deem to be like the hype, right? They were hype. They were excited for the Hunted. James White knew deep down that he was more excited for set 16 than he is for the Hunted. And if that goes to
Which
show
is actually
anything,
funny because that's this next
like
set, High Seas, right? Set
right.
16 would
Yep,
be
set
this.
16
So
is in fact the high season. So James White during the keynote of most of the announcement for the Hunted, well, as they're supposed to be hyping up the Hunted, James White is just like, I'm really happy for the Hunted. But it's not going to be anything compared to set 16. High seas is going to be like, obviously, like he didn't say high seas, but he's so excited for it. Like he was unhinged on Twitter, just telling people about pirates and everything, and just like loving everything about it. And so,
oh yeah.
um, it's great. I mean, seriously, the hype is insane right now for high seas, and I feel like this is definitely going to be a gateway for a lot of new players and a lot of people who just like have slightly been interested. This is other people's Uprising for me. Like Uprising was my
Yeah.
thing to get me into the game. Like this is going to be it for them with Necromancer probably, or Pirate.
So I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with a clever, catchy title, and I'm going to do something hilarious here to try and get people to get engaged with this video. But one of the true topics of this and what I wanted to cover, since we have kind of a gap between the massive drop of information from high seas to kind of things that are going to be maybe on the horizon, is if you haven't tried the game Flesh and Blood, or even if you tried prior, similar to some of the stuff that I've been seeing out there, you know there's been kind of a turn, maybe a different direction, a different wind in the sails, so to speak, that has given some new light to how they approach the game. And when the one video I was referencing earlier, when they were talking about the Magic sets, I'd been so disconnected from Magic for a while now that I forgot that Magic was releasing like 7 to 10 to 12 sets a year, like some insane amount of sets. So
Yeah.
when I really sat back and said, wow, I'm excited to have 3 core sets a year, or I think it was 4 at one point. Now it's 3 plus maybe a supplemental. And now they're adding in products like the Armory decks or the Blitz boxes, or round the table UPF, if we ever get another one, hopefully, those kind of things, right? The products are spaced out enough that, one of the key things that I have forgot because of how much I'm in this game, probably similar to you, Alex, you don't have to buy every product. And that is something
No.
that I have almost forgotten about because I am still trying to play multiple heroes, right? I'm still trying to play assassins and, learn how to do that. I'm really learning ninja, but my bread and butter was mechanologist. And when I look back at other sets, I really didn't need Outsiders. I really didn't need Uprising. I really didn't need Rosetta, but I really liked Bright Lights, and I'm going to love the crap out of High Seas because it has Mechanologist and it has several other very awesome, important things, pirates and necromancers and everything. But, there's just a lot of I guess, different ways to consume this game. And I don't know if maybe this is a good time to go back over some of those ways to consume the game, since new eyes might be, kind of prying in for the first time. And this may be one opportunity or one avenue for people to see those avenues. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's always good. I feel like, it's I'm kind of the same person that will always make a video nearly every year, every, like, 3 to 4 months into the year of, here is how you can get into X, right? Like, and it goes the same for Flesh and Blood, because things are constantly changing. I mean, there's due to be a new format slash product thing existing in August when they come out with Smash Palace, whatever the hell that thing is. So that could be a new way to introduce people into Flesh and Blood through just a simple game like that, whatever the hell it might be. Obviously, you have several different avenues through what is being sold at the store. You could buy a box, open it up, and play, like, draft with a couple people to see what it's like. That's a way to get in. You can buy an armory deck, sleeve it up, go to your locals for an armory and see how that works. You can go to a skirmish event that's happening right now, and you can go play Blitz. If pick up a Blitz deck for pretty cheap and then go play Blitz. Find a local that's willing to run a commoner event and go play commoner. They probably have a deck for you already. You don't even need to bring anything. They'll just have
That's very
all the
true.
stuff for you. So there's a lot. There's a lot of different ways, not to mention all the social media, all the different content creators that are being, coming into the scene and talk, even if it's just so much as like a Magic the Gathering creator taking a pause on Magic to talk one video on Flesh and Blood is enough for people to get so many different eyes on the game itself that it's it's great. I mean, any publicity in this situation is good publicity, because more people get their eyes on the game and people are able to check it out and see exactly what the game's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And another interesting component is, when I watch some of these, I'll call them larger Pokemon YouTuber channels, or I listen
Hmm.
to, I would say the drama versions of, like, these scalpers did this or these people
Hmm.
do that. I'm going to say, truthfully, I'm pretty happy to, at least from what I'm noticing, that crap really doesn't seem to. I'm sure it does. In some, I'm not saying it doesn't, but for the most part, we're not having someone walk in with a shopping cart and going through the aisle of Target, because obviously it's not at Target, and they're not just going
Right.
like this and taking all the cereal boxes and dumping them into their cart and running off with stuff. So, like, I think there's a level of maturity with this game that kind of comes around too, as well as the fact that there is a higher skill cap. I think, as I've not been originally one to really think too hard about that. The game can be played without knowing a lot, but you probably won't do a lot of winning. And I'm going to harken that back to an old game I played called War Machine. That's a tabletop miniatures game. And
Hmm.
when I first got sales pitched that game, I think I might have sold this to Alex once, but it was, hey, you want to play a game where you're going to lose every game until you learn how to win? And it's like, I feel like, in a weird way, Flesh and Blood also kind of has that, like, mantra where I came in
Yeah.
for the enjoyment of the people factor and the puzzle, the logic of how to figure it out. And over time, I've gotten better at things, but obviously, I'm nowhere to the level of, like, a Hamilton, a Brody, a Fang, Michael Fang. I'm not at those calibers because I don't play at those levels. Um, Even recently, watching the stream where it was I think it was Brazilian calling is what happened.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. The Brazil
watching the
calling.
the high end plays that happen there, and then the excitement in the room. I just it's magical in some interesting ways that I don't quite know how to put into words. Because even when I was at Baltimore, where I got to meet several of the kind of community members around there
Hmm.
and just kind of hang out, that experience is hard to live back up to, because Gen Con was not that experience. That was a very different experience for me, because even though I go to Gen Con every year, there were other people that were in the fab bucket there, but it wasn't like holistically fab. So it seemed to have a very different vibe compared to, like, a SCG Con or something that has a bunch of fab
Hmm.
magic and other events. So that just kind of intrigued. But back on the train of products and playing the game, I mean, they're starting to get a bunch of the armory decks out there, blitz decks. There's almost worthwhile. Just there's so many ways to get in, and I'm sure they're going to kind of keep going with that train. The armory decks seem wildly successful.
Yeah, yeah. I think obviously the armory decks are a pretty big deal, and oddly enough, I mean, it's in some areas it is like core to how people are getting into the game,
Sure.
strictly because a lot of people are usually enfranchised. They tend to either be willing to swap over to a hero if that armory deck has important cards for the hero within it. But for the most part, I mean, a lot of people tend to stick with the hero they want or the heroes they've already got built and that they feel are competitive into the meta. But something like the most recent armory deck to come out, Aurora, was, I mean, you can't even find it where you guys are, but over in Colorado on our end, we have like tons on the shelves because we only have a couple people who are playing Aurora right now, and like new players who are coming in. There's options, right? You get a KO deck, you can get a Jarl deck, you can get an Aurora deck, and so because there's options, there's a lot more. Not everybody's going to be drawn to the Fortnite character that is Aurora, and
Yeah,
so
that's funny.
yeah. So but it's funny because a new player also doesn't realize that Aurora is like a top meta deck right now. I mean, she is absolutely stomping the classic constructed scene right now with the cards that are in that deck. And if they knew that all they needed to do is drop like another $100 into that armory deck and have it be like pretty good, like
Hmm.
win your armory almost all the time consistently good, that might be enough for them to just be like, yeah, this can be done. I'll gladly upgrade this armory deck and see where it's at. But again, it might not be the play style that they like. There's several different play styles to be had in Flesh and Blood. And so it's all about just being able to do it. And I think that's where, when a new player comes into the game and they pick up an armory deck, their immediate thing is not, let's go spike this armory. It's, let's pick up a
Let's
deck.
learn the game.
Let's see what these cards do. Let's see whether or not I like the art for the game. Let's see if the interactions are something I enjoy. And then, if they enjoyed their first couple of armories and they want to continue playing with the deck they have, they can upgrade it. And the community, at least out by us, we have a pretty awesome community where, like, if people are looking to upgrade an armory deck and they need like a few commons and rares that aren't in the set, like, I just hand them out to people. I'm just like, here, like, you don't have to worry about all that. Sometimes if I have the Majestics and I have extras, I'll give them to new players to be able to pump up their decks and be able to have that value. And that's just because, like, we want to see the growth of individuals when they play the game, and allowing them to see what the deck is like in full power is a really great way to be able to do that too. So
Yeah. Well, I guess let's talk about the interesting elephant in the room that seemed to have happened now twice. So, they say lightning doesn't strike twice, but apparently LSS had two unfortunate kind of back-to-back oopsies. And the reason I'm going to say that this one's fair game is because it was apparently posted via LSS to their YouTube channel with a spoiler of a couple of cards for Max the Hype Nitro. But then apparently the video got taken back down, but the cards are still being shared around. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk about it because at this point, you can't, kind of like you said, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. And, I feel like these are interesting enough. I don't want to not talk about it because it's mech cards, and like this turbocharges my Nitro Mechanoid options. Like, I am ecstatic about these. But knowing that we have the Gravy Bones deck coming out, and then we have, oh, hey, speaking of Gravy Bones, I want to show you something cute that I found at Half Price Books.
Half Price Books.
I present to you my 3-dimensional Gravy Bones that I will be using. It even came with a treasure chest, so when I have to do gold, I'll have a gold marker. But I found that it was I think it was $4.99. Yeah, originally it was $8 at Disney. By the way, apparently this is a cheapo.
So funny.
But I just was walking in and I was like, hey, screw it, I gotta buy it. So
yeah, you gotta get it. That's now when you're playing your pre-releases and you're playing
just
Gravy Bones, you can
set them down
and
right
hang
there.
out. My goodness.
That was my
That's
that
funny
was
as
my
hell.
my ha ha ha. Look at me, I'm funny. Just kidding. So, but it was honestly, I
We had a local who did some stuff there in regards to they created these or they didn't create them. They bought these like little tiny like gold coins, and they're utilizing them as resources for whenever they're pitching stuff when High Seas Limited comes out. And so I'm just like,
nice.
okay, like that seems like kind of a fun thing to do.
I mean, I kind of, in a weird way, I know it wouldn't be done at higher level tournaments, but you really could three dimensionalize your hero because as long as the ability is readable or you could do something, then it would be fun to take your hero and place it like a chess piece, like I'm playing this on the board kind of a thing. So,
Mm-hmm. But yeah. I mean, I think at least like when it comes to something like the Max deck, how do you feel about the deck? Do you like the cards that you saw? Do you think that the from what we've seen, I'm not sure if you watched the actual video, but like, do you
was
how do
the
you use a
was
mech
the
player
video out
enjoy
long
play
enough to
style?
actually be watched before it got taken down?
I watched the whole thing.
Oh, see, okay, let me tell you. The way this worked, I I must have been late to the game. I saw the video get posted. I was out
Uh
and
huh.
about. I had things I had to do. I saw the cards get posted to the display channel or to the flesh and blood, spoiler thing. I immediately copied, re-uploaded onto Twitter and said, "Look at these cool cards. Great." I flagged the video in my watch later list, and then when I got home about an hour later, the video literally the URL said it was gone. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, okay." And the first thing that went through my head is, didn't I just get done deleting the post that I had that had a bunch of spoiler cards? And I'm like, did I just spoil another thing? And I'm like, what the heck? So if you actually
To
got
be
to watch
fair, yeah, I didn't actually even I had assumed this was all very legitimate. And when I watched the video, I got to be fair, I didn't finish the video. I got like 3/4 of the way because I was in the middle of work when I was watching it. It popped up literally as I was going on my break, and I'm like, yeah, I'll watch the video, sure. And I watched it, and I was like, okay, cool, I love this. I won't spoil the video because the video is really well done, but um, being able to see the deck and everything, and have um, Carol kind of introduce what the deck is supposed to be doing, and the cards that you're looking for effectively was really nice to see. But I'm not gonna lie, I don't really play a lot of mechanologists, but this doesn't seem very hype from my end.
were
But
there were there boosty cards in it or no?
oh no,
Not
there are boosty cards.
okay.
The only thing, and like I guess I'll just kind of go over from what was in the video, what was explained about the deck, is that effectively, if you haven't seen the spoilers yet, they're probably still on. They're still on Purple Discord, and they're still everywhere. Like if you have a spoiler chat for Flesh and Blood, they're still up there. A lot of
They're
the
even on
armor,
Reddit.
yeah, they're on Reddit. Like if you have the armor that you're able to get, first and foremost, I think the coolest thing to come out of this deck is Puffer Jacket. I think that
Yeah.
Puffer Jacket, that chest piece, is crazy cool. Not only is the art good, but the effects good. It blocks well. It does everything that you want to do to kind of like make it a better Teclo Foundry Heart, which is awesome.
The additional
Um,
Steam counter is just chef's kiss, but yeah, we'll
yeah,
come back. I
but
got some
that's
stuff to
and
talk
that's
about it.
also yeah, that's also more important because with Max wanting to crank hyperdrivers, it's essentially free crank. You get a crank for free. You don't ever lose a Steam counter. Essentially, you get to play it and you get a free crank off the things, which is
Which
crazy good
changes sell
in that
you can
effect.
do all sorts of interesting stuff. I mean, and theoretically, if you have more
Right.
counters on it, if you ever do the nitro mechanoid, um, you know, I don't well, I okay, the counters aren't going to do anything for the
No,
mech itself, but
counters don't do anything for the mech. But
I
I
guess
think
there's
the issue I have with the deck
hmm,
is that the concept of it is that you are running 9 hyperdrivers in your deck. 9.
it's a lot of
There are 9
hyperdrivers.
hyperdrivers in this deck. 3 reds, 3 yellows, 3 blues. Now, I
Mhm.
don't know a single mechanologist in the history of this earth that has ever run yellow or red or yellow or blue hyperdrivers. Like, okay, that wasn't in Blitz. Like, you yellow and blue. Let me remind you all, if you don't know what hyperdriver does, forget the ability for a second, right? Hyperdriver is an item that does not block.
Correct.
In most cases, hyperdriver, you are only running the reds, which is 3 copies, 3 no blocks in your deck, whatever. You have other items as well, not the big deal. But now you have 9 cards in your deck that don't block, on top of any other items that are within the deck. And effectively, the whole concept of the armory deck is to just like banish and then recur your hyperdrivers to allow you to get more value off of your armor, and also to be able to get you additional like steam counters on stuff. And this whole concept, right? That is the purpose of banishing those with the max deck. But more importantly, is the weapon.
Okay.
Have you seen the construct bank breaker thing?
Yeah. So here, before you go down that path, let me ask one question. So I thought at one point does the deck, this will tell me if I understand the strategy they're going for, because this is what my build was for both UPF and some other stuff. It's called Blessing of Ingenuity. That card is at the start of your turn, destroy Blessing of Ingenuity, put 3 hyperdrivers from your graveyard or banish zone into the arena. So that card, in my opinion, is like a crucial component to quickly getting hyperdrivers on the board if your goal is to go for a construct Nitro Mechanoid build. I don't know if that's it doesn't sound like this is a construct Nitro Mechanoid build. That's fine. So
as far as I know, there is not a Nitro Mechanoid in this deck. And that's because instead of you constructing a mech, you're instead constructing the weapon. That bank breaker that we've seen in previous things, that big weapon that's got the twice per turn action, you can put a card from, you can banish a card from under it and attack with it. It gets go again and overpower. That is a construct that you need to make with this construct bank breaker. So you need to have
3 hyperdrivers, the bank breaker,
3 hyperdrivers and Banksy.
Yeah.
Like you need to have a wrench, and the only wrench that's available for Max is Banksy. And so that therefore, not only is construct bank breaker it's not a weapon that you can start your turn with, right? Or start your game with. It's not a start and play, stay and play. It also is technically a max specialization, because
at this moment,
no other hero can run a wrench. No other mechanologist has a wrench.
Hopefully we get a pirate ship wrench thing, so I can.
I would hope that that's the whole thing with Puffin, is that Puffin is like the fixer upper for the airships.
I would imagine that maybe it's either going to be a fixer,
and she's able to that she uses the wrench to
either a fixer or some sort of pistol rapier kind of a component, like a swashbuckler kind of a thing.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be an interesting way to build it. But all I know is that, like, when you take the concept of what Bankbreaker was, initially everybody thought that's just going to be your weapon. Max got an upgraded weapon. Mechanologist got an upgraded weapon. That's awesome. But instead, now that people know they have to build it, there are so many loops, because you think about the concept, right, of Construct Nitro Mechanoid, in which right now, if you wanted to get the most value out of your Construct Nitro Mechanoid, you would need to make 3 hyperdrivers and have Banksy, then play Construct Bankbreaker, equip your new weapon with 4 cards underneath it, never attack with it, make 3 more hyperdrivers, and then play Construct Nitro Mechanoid, in which you then get 5 things or 4 additional attacks.
It's combo hell is what it is.
It's combo hell, but it's not worth anything at all. Like it's not like, oh cool, you get to OTK somebody if you get this combo off. All it does is it allows you to attack 4 more times with it. And in order for that to happen, you need to set up not once, but twice with Max in order for that to occur, which is just so much like, you essentially at that point, you might as well just play Teklevosen. Like
Yeah, and you have a
Teclovos and
lot of
blocks better.
non-blocks. Well, I was gonna say you got a lot of non-blocks you're dealing with. You're
Yeah.
gonna have to really focus on basically not losing much headway because you know you're still I just there's a lot of downside to that. But even with
Yeah.
clamp press, right? Even if you were to use clamp press and make your current uh, bank breaker, um, which again you can't, it's not Banksy, so yes you can get a 5 twice per turn, but
Hmm.
you're oh my gosh, you're doing a lot. And again, it'll be interesting to experiment with, but even with the equipment and some of the other bits and pieces, just kind of looking at like the one that was called the Twin Tech charging station, where you get
Hmm.
a next boost card gets +3. That kind of is trying to offset, in my opinion, that whole you have 0, block cards, right? So you're really giving yourself an extra +3 attack, kind of, but it's also on another card that's not part of that other one. So
Right. And you also like can't utilize it with, for instance, right? You can't utilize it with your wrench.
no.
So like if the concept is that you want to create this wrench that you're wanting to power up and make stronger, you have to use that +3 from Twin Tech Charging Station on a boost card. It's got a boost. And so at that point, you're just playing a pump that blocks 2, mind you. So, like, still already bad, right? Still already poor blocking power in the deck overall, which is fine because they gave a pretty solid fridge in that regard, with the leg piece essentially being a weird pseudo mechanologist Valiant Dynamo, which is kind of neat. But at the end of the day, like you're not mid range enough, and like if the concept is just to like, I know this is something that LSS has spoken about in previous articles, stating that what they want to do is they want to showcase the identity of heroes more. They want them to be more thematic. They want more of these to occur, and I feel like it's cool to see this quest that this hero goes on to create this bank breaker, to create this ultimate wrench that they can use to tear down the regime of of metrics and be anarchists and stuff like that. But at the end
But
of the
you
day,
wouldn't know
it's
any of
not.
that
It's
data because there's no flavor text on the card. Zinger,
yeah, yeah.
zinger.
It's right. There's no flavor text.
you have to know the story from the website. Sorry, I'm still salty about not having all the flavor text in the world on these things, but
No, it's fine. I mean, like I mean, flavor text also would certainly help, at least if you're trying to do something thematic from this end. But like,
I know.
quite literally, Max is just
I say it
building a
with
big
love.
wrench.
I know.
Like he's just building a
The
big
art on it's
wrench.
really cool. Now, what's interesting is when I look at I guess the outfit that kind of is portrayed within the breaker, or I guess it's now maybe called the breaker set, but there's the breaker, the brakes that look like he's skating on something.
Hmm.
We've seen that, at least the skate thing. I swear I've seen that either in a video at some point, like, or another card art has something similar, because I swear I have seen like the rails on fire thing at some point, and I don't know where. I've been trying to track it down for a while, and I've been unsuccessful with finding it. The closest I found was, Evo Facebreaker and Evo Mockbreaker, where they got kind of like skates and they're going down a street, looks like cyberpunk style kind of a
Hmm.
thing. But anyways, so for those that may be new to the game, I think Max will be an interesting deck to pick up, even though I really genuinely have no idea what at this moment it's going to function like. But it seems like it's going to be flavorful enough to really warrant at least a look at. And I still think that, given that right now we are on the precipice of having a new class with Necromancer, a revitalization of Ranger, and now new just pump it right into my blood with the steampunk mechanologist slash air captain slash
Hmm.
space Jetsons version of aeronaut. I don't know what we want to call it. I'm just throwing all the words out there because I've been trying to think of something for it. But the the idea here is that I'm sure there'll be at least a piece of the puzzle for a good mech deck that even now we have Dash IO and Max. Maybe if you combine some of those pieces together, there'll be something from over here that you might use over here. You might choose to use Cerebellum Processor over in Max, or you might choose to use a specific card that comes in Max over in the Dash deck. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. They're kind of in reverse order, so probably not. But just even having it, I mean, I would imagine in the future, going back to the KO days, right? The KO deck still has cards where at this point, the only way to get them was to have bought that deck. So in my opinion, I'm going to say if you're serious about trying to play mech as a class at some point, I would still pick it up because odds are, currently, just like the Dash IO deck, you're going to need, certain cards that are in it. And the only way to get them right now are in that deck.
Yeah, and I think I don't know, the only thing in which like I'd imagine that is so core to the health of a mechanologist is whether or not Puffin is going to utilize a wrench. I think that is the only time in which this is the case, because the core concept of armory decks is obviously to get a fully playable deck right out of the box into the hands of a player to be able to play at their armory. But more importantly, this is also a vessel for new cards to be printed for heroes that need it. Heroes that need this kind of support in order for them to be better than what they were previously. And Max is doing fairly well. I mean, he's a fairly like B tier, I'd say maybe B tier deck right now, but like this deck is supposed to essentially do exactly what the Aurora deck did with Aurora, which is bump it up and say, hey, you've got more support now. This is supposed to be what you do. It yeah, exactly. Elevates the hero. And something that this just is not doing is that, at least so far from what I've seen, it's not doing it. So unless there are relevant reprints in here, like Twin Drive or something, like
yeah, right,
you're probably not going to see. Yeah, exactly. Like you're probably not going to see anything like that in this deck. And so because of that, like you got Puffer Jacket, which I think is great. And I think theoretically you can utilize that in other forms of other mechanologists. But currently at this very moment, there is nothing that is allowing for that to be like the reason to play Max over playing somebody like Dio. Because I think Dio just has like the better setup.
Let me throw something else interesting at you here. So there was a video, I listened to it just earlier today. I guess it came out about 10 days ago. It's from I'm assuming maybe a podcast. I don't quite know what they are, but they are from Brazil, but it's called Team Pummel Party. And they got to interview Brian Gottlieb. And after listening to that, one of the things that keys right into what you're saying there, and this is something that we talked about a little bit before, but with having different product paths now, for strike decks, the blitz decks, the armory decks, the core sets, the expansion slots, the treasure packs, you can slot cards in now that don't want to affect the draft capability, but you want it to help this hero. So you can slot it in a treasure pack, but maybe you need, like the Gravy Bones deck may have a core of what's good for the Necromancer deck, so that if you buy that, you only need to get a couple extra cards from the actual set, high seas. And I'm kind of doing some of this math based on looking at the Fabry data they have the high seas stuff where, C000 is the fabled card. The very first one, as an example, looking at just Mechanologist, is Mech 001, which is Puff and Hightail. Well, if Gravy Bones, which is C43, based on what I'm understanding, and Golden Cog is 42, that's a token, we have from number 1 to 42 of just Mechanologist cards. That's what we know. Now, if there's dual class stuff or pirate stuff, right, that's a little bit different, but I'm looking at just specifically the mech class. I have, give or take, let's call it 40 new mech cards coming in high seas. Probably a little bit less, given that there's probably, maybe one or two other variety of things in there. And then if I choose to run Puffin, who is a mechanologist and a pirate, by the way, we'll clarify that it is not a talent. It's a class, has been confirmed, I guess. I screwed that up. Screwed that up last podcast.
I think we both did. I think we both screwed that up. I wish that was the case.
It is interesting to see that it is truly a class, because that, I'm gonna go on a tangent here. I know I'm talking about mech, but I don't really think in the long run there is a difference between a class and a talent. I really think that homogeneously they're really one and the same. You can add them together, but at the end of the day, it's still a separate pool of cards. So the idea of having a class and having a talent, do you really see a big difference between a class and a talent? Because I know a talent has always been the bolt on to a class, but really I don't. I'm kind of seeing them as one and the same now, and maybe I'm wrong. What's your thoughts on that?
I definitely think there's a difference. And the reason I think there's a difference is mainly because I view class as core values and talent as fun mechanic. And
So if we wanted to
so,
see an ice ninja,
yeah,
because I know that's been brought up all the time,
mhm,
ice ball,
right.
whatever. Katsu is not the ice ninja, but Fi is the fire ninja, right? So if you got Avatar, the Last Airbender or whatever, you could have an ice something, but the ice talent, you're saying it really can't stand on its own. We couldn't just have an ice hero without a talent, is what I'm understanding, or without a class.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. And that's the reason being is because it's meant to add a supplemental level of cards that are meant to add a different strategy almost to a hero. So, for instance, right, you take a look at Acilio versus Icelander, right?
They already added
Acilio,
Necromancer and
there
Pirate to the card distribution data. Sorry.
did they? There you go,
Yeah,
right?
that's funny.
It, but like when you take a look at both wizards, right? Acilio is a lightning, is an elemental wizard that has the aspect of lightning, and Icelander is an elemental wizard that has the aspect of ice, which means that both of them theoretically are the same talent and the same class, but their aspects is another talent that they both have access to, and
Which
the
in that
difference
case,
being
Ice
there,
Wizards has 50 cards and Ice Lightning has 68 cards. Difference, as in the Ice
right?
talent has 50 cards. The Lightning, according to Fabric, probably not 100%. It's probably accurate, but just a ballpark number, which are completely separate for those hero pools, which gives them, like you said, flavor.
Exactly, right. And effectively that allows, the lightning cards make sense for Cilio because Cilio wants to use lightning cards to utilize Volzar, right? Volzar being his weapon that says whenever you play a lightning card, you get a counter on here and then you can play and pump your spell. Whereas Icelander utilizes these ice cards, which she can this was more so fusion back then. It's not so much fusion now, but like ice fusion cards were like you're meant to only really play like a card that's meant for disruption, fuse it with an ice card, and then be able to set up on your turn so that way you can play on your opponent's turn while they're being disrupted by this ice value. Both of those heroes are wizards, both of them are elemental wizards, and theoretically, the only difference between them is their talent, and they both can technically play cards on your opponent's turn. They both are elemental, which means they can utilize the fusion technique of that talent. So that's the concept there. But the third talent in that regard is the ice or lightning, which differentiates the two heroes. So I would certainly say that there is there's specifics to it. The same goes for illusionists, right? You take a look at Dromai. It's actually a perfect example. Take a look at Dromai. Dromai is a draconic illusionist, and the reason that she's not just playing just illusionist cards is because she cares about red cards. Draconics care about red cards. Now, of course, Draconics also care about whether or not your cards are draconic. That is something that's been shared a lot in new cards from the Hunted. But Prism only really cares about yellow cards. And they're both illusionists. They both have allies. They both have phantasm cards in their deck and can be popped by your opponent's stuff. But the thing that makes them different is their talent, because one allows you to you're mostly going to want red cards because your red cards allow you to create resources to do illusionist things. And the same goes for Prism, where pitching your yellow cards therefore allows you to get go again on your heralds. And so there's that additional tech. Now, obviously, we don't have a non-talented illusionist, so we don't know what like base level illusionist would look like from its core. But what we could imagine is that it's the same deal: Phantasm, Spectra, like being able to make an ally, probably like those are the general gist of things. But every talent adds a little bit onto something like that. So
Gotcha. Yeah, by the way, just as an FYI, I mean, I'm sure we can manage through it because I'm just pausing to, or at least I'm not speaking hopefully over you, but I think we still have a network weirdness where sometimes there's a little bit of a delay on what you're saying back, and I don't know if that's on my end, so I'll have to look at that later. So
yeah, I mean, at least from my end, I'm not seeing anything crazy. I do notice that sometimes you will pause after I'm done talking, and
right there, just happened.
that's probably that delay coming through.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So I don't know.
It
I
was
don't
just
know.
interesting.
Could be.
I wanted to be like, I don't think I was looking at my internet connection. I'm like, it says I'm doing okay, but yeah, who knows? So, anyways, so where do you want to kind of circle this to next? Because, um, for this, I mean, we really didn't have too big of a plan. I think I kind of wanted to talk about the sets. I know that was one of the things I talked off cam early was, you know, kind of the products and maybe some of the marketing behind some of that and where things might be going. But really, what else do you want to talk about? I mean, I'm really open for any particular topic here. There's still a lot of avenues to explore here.
Let's see. I do know that I saw recently that currently every set is out of print besides the hunted, from what I can see on Flesh and Blood's website, which is pretty cool.
Oh, if I go
It's
directly
also
to the
very
website,
strange to me. Yeah.
so if I go
Yep.
to the product releases page.
So you actually will go to the Collector Center.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah.
So yeah. So if you go to Collector Center, you can click on Rosetta. Rosetta is out of print currently. Artemis Veil is out of print currently. Heavy Hitters out of print.
That is interesting. It
So
says yes on each of those. I am looking at this and can confirm
yep.
that it does in public form say that those are out of print. Now, that does lend into an interesting dilemma as we proceed forward with the game. Obviously, and I think they talked about it in that Pummel podcast, but reprints at a certain point will have to happen. But there is this value perception of needing to know I would say, having the value or maintaining the perception of the value of the thing you're buying. I'm going to talk about Shelter the Storm because that to me seems to be the poster child for where things are going to fall off the book, in my opinion. Because Shelter from the Storm is a generic, and for those that may not be familiar with the game, generics can be used with any class. Now, if you're here, thanks. Hopefully, like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. I don't know why you would randomly be doing that in the middle of this, but hey, I'll take it. With all the hype around a lot of these newer sets, I'm noticing that the generics. I mean, oh my gosh, Shelter from the Storm's $100 right now.
Yep.
Didn't
Don't buy it for that
high.
price though.
But people still are. I think that's the core of where this gets really interesting. So I'm still seeing, according to this data here on just TCG Player, other sales could be elsewhere, but it looks like it's selling on average. It says on average, the daily average sold in the last month is 8. And in the last couple of days, 6, 7, 8, 9, 4, 3, 2, all the way at about $100. So clearly people are willing to pay this price for this card. I don't see it as $100 card because what's the legendaries in that set worth? I'm just going to go back to asking the most generic question because legendaries are printed at a different rarity tier. I can buy Quick Dodge Reflexers for $76, Dragon Flight Scaler for $40. I could buy Blood Spider Vest for $70. Mask of Deceit is all the way down to $16. Kabuto is $17. And these are the non-special versions, by the way. So I could basically, for that same price of buying one Shelter, buy 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 legendaries. I'll call it 3 on the safe side. If you really squeeze it in and you kind of play with it a bit, maybe go a little bit above the number, you'll get 4. I'd get 4 legendaries, which would be back in the day. That'd be like buying 4 cases worth of cards to get because you only got 1 legendary per case in the old days. But now that's not the case in 2.0. So it's wild to me to think that in a piece of equipment, the thing that you're going to use in every other deck that's for that thing, right, is less expensive than the generic card. And maybe that's where this was the question I didn't get to ask about the high seas, which will tie it in. Do you think we're going to see generic cards in high seas, or are we only going to see pirate cards, like pirate, just the raw ability or raw class pirate card, or are they all going to be pirate, comma, or pirate conjoined with mech, Necromancer, and Ranger? Because that has been something like, as an example, Sink Below, right? If you think about thematically, sinking oceans, sink below, the card looks like, kind of, even though it's a portal, I think we all discovered it's a portal, but it looks like water. It could be reprinted, but it's a generic. It's also a fairly expensive common. I guess now a rare. Is it a rare? Now it's common?
No,
Is
it's a
it a rare?
common.
Common? Have they ever made it in rare?
It's still
I thought they
common.
made it in rare.
It's always been a common, but they did make it a rare in one. I think the Bolton Armory deck reprinted them in rare.
Back in my day.
Yeah, back in my day, they were a common, and people didn't need 7,000 of them.
It's 284. I mean, that's pretty impressive given that most other red cards, even Razor Reflex, right? Razor Reflex isn't to that level. Razor Reflex is still like, I don't know, 50 cents, 25 cents, 10 cents. I mean, it's...
Yep. I think it really comes down to, I don't know whether or not they're going to print generics in the set. I do think that it makes significantly more sense. Yeah. I think it makes significantly more sense for them to make the first half of the pack be Necromancer, Mechanologist, and Ranger cards, the equipment, and then pirate cards, and then the rares, and then the Majestics or whatever the slots are in the back, right? I think that makes more sense strictly because there are technically 4 classes in this set. One of those classes being shared amongst all 3 heroes. So it makes more sense for them to not print generics. Whereas, like, when you take a look at the Hunted had 3 different classes and technically 2 talents, but you're not able to get a nice mix of those in a pack. So the generics help fill those gaps. So I don't know.
This is pretty streamlined.
I would certainly hope.
I would say this set is seemingly with a new class, 2 existing classes, and a new class. Actually, technically, this is 2 new classes. Really,
2 new classes
because pirate is a class. So the question is, will we see pirate only or pirate always in this particular set paired with a class, existing class? And I kind of am wondering if we're going to have any of that. That would be my $1 million question, because we're so used to seeing, I think, when was the last set that didn't have generics? Was it like a Dusk Till Dawn? No, Dusk Till Dawn had generics. Has there been a set?
Generics?
Is there a set that... Well, yes, yeah, that was the one exception for sure. But outside of that, was generics in every set? I think the answer is almost yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. There were some in Outsiders. Yeah, there were definitely some in Uprising. There were some in Part the Mist Heavy Hitters.
So if I look at sets, I see Welcome to Wraith, Outsiders, Arcane, Monarch. Heavy Hitters had 50, Everfest, Uprising. Hunted had 32. Crucible Award, Dynasty. Dusk Till Dawn had 15. First Strike has some.
Bright Lights is the only one without generics.
So this, if they don't have generics, this would be the second set to break that mold.
Yep.
Which
I think is fine.
Yeah.
I think it's fine. Now, granted, I mean, it's not even so much the fact that things like Shelter from the Storm are generic, right? That is something that helps its price.
It's a damn good card.
But it's the fact that it's a good card. It's not a damn good card, but it's a good card. And the thing with it is that when you take a look at it, the reason why it's going for so much is strictly because we are also currently in a meta where something like that and its versatility is incredibly valuable.
And I had that played against me a couple of games with like Katsu as an example. You know, blocking 3 1/1/1s or all in one bigger attack. That is very flexible. So I 100% understand why it's probably the price that it is. Oh, Apparently, they
Yeah.
finally put High Seas as pre-orders on TCG Player. So
Oh, nice. There we go.
things are
Yeah,
starting to pop. Things are starting to pop up just today, man. It's
I'm telling you, it's just what it is. These are
wow.
these
They
are the
already have
times.
they already
It's
have cards listed too. That the ones that have been spoiled. Holy shoot! There's the Marvel have the Marvel versions of the heroes been spoiled?
yeah.
Even the Marvel cog was spoiled.
Yep.
Where did that get
Yeah,
spoiled?
those are on the collector center, or not the collector center, the database stuff.
And they showed the Marvel of the cog because I didn't know that was a
Hmm.
thing. That's cool. I have
Yep.
to get me one of
So
those.
there's a Marvel cog, a Marvel goldfin harpoon, a Marvel treasure,
Oh, you have to
or a
click on the
Marvel
card
gold.
and then go to the optional. Is that the treasure
Correct.
pack?
Yeah. Yep. That's the treasure pack
So
stuff.
technically, it's part of the TP card. I got it.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, I mean,
God, that's beautiful.
I think regardless of what the issue is going to be, like, however the set is set up, I hope there aren't generics in here, because I don't think there need to be. I think that if they do exactly that, where they replace generics with just like pirate only cards, and then allow that to be the case, because we see, even just with the cards that have been spoiled so far, that there are Necromancer cards and there are pirate Necromancer cards. Well, actually, that's a lie. Currently, we only know there are pirate Necromancer cards, but we do know that there are Mechanologist cards and pirate Mechanologist cards. So, because there are those two differences, I'm only assuming that it's going to be the same way for each of these classes and each of these, these heroes, where you're going to have a subsection of the first half is going to be pirate, whatever class, and then it's going to cut off, and then it will be just the base stuff that will be cards that can be utilized in any of these classes moving forward. So, for instance, any of the pirate stuff that comes out, it's not strictly related to just these three heroes. If they come out with a pirate armory deck in 3 months, then we at least have cards from the set that are able to be put into that deck as a as a filler for it, in case some cards are just like strictly better.
So let's talk about one other item for High C, since we didn't really cover too much of it, but the treasure pack. Because it's a subset within the set, but it's a single pack per. You know, I'm going to guess that it says they're not intended for booster or draft play. Is this going to be a good addition? So there's the expansion slot in the set typically.
Mm-hmm.
Is this another avenue to help inject much needed reprints, theoretically, into the game, but at a rate at which is sustainable and helps maintain a dollar average, where maybe it'll go down a little bit as these come in? Because if you think about it, there's one per box. So there's not going to be a shortage of these. And if there's 90 cards in a set in this scenario, if you ignore the Marvels, ignore the legendaries, and ignore the whatever they call pirate booty, maybe the pirate booty is reprints of other cards. Because why would they want to put Codex of Frailty, as an example, in the main set of High Seas? I don't think they would. So unless it's in an expansion slot, the only other option would be is maybe if they were to try to reprint something like that, it'd be in a pirate booty slot, which could be where they're slotting in, hey, here are 4 legendaries from the past that we're reprinting. Here are some other variety of things that we're putting in here. And also, here's some super spicy crazy crap. Is that way off the rails?
No, I mean, like, I think it's the fact that they're not telling us what rarity these cards are when they call them pirate booty. That's just me assuming that these are probably going to be just flashier versions of cards, like micro text box rares and stuff, kind of like you would see. But my issue with that is that if that were to be the case, what the hell are they going to do with the gem packs that come out?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
The gem packs are supposed to be that. So it's a weird situation, because as it's stated in the treasure pack overview, right? 90 cards in the set, 3 cards in each pack, a gold slot, a map slot, and a treasure slot. And that treasure slot contains a cold foil or a lost treasure, which is quite literally like a 1 in 1,000 chance to get a lost
So it's
treasure.
like
So
a
it's more
box.
than
It's like a
likely
box
a cold
topper,
foil.
right? So in a weird
Yes.
way, this is kind of a box topper. And on
Hmm.
top of that, if it's a guaranteed cold foil, because it sounds like it's always going to be a cold foil of some sort, right? Is that what my
Yes.
understanding is?
Yeah, you
That
are
means
always at least going to get a cold foil or a lost treasure.
so could this be where they stopped printing cold foil commons in the set because they were tired? People gave a lot of feedback commenting, "Oh man, I bought a box and my entire box I got one cold foil and that cold foil was, the common cold foil of something I really didn't give a crap about." Do you think that they are going to still have cold foils? I mean, they're going to have marvels, right? But do you think that they maybe move those into this pack to make it feel less bad? And I don't know. I mean, that's just another thought I've been thinking about, because otherwise that gives you two cold foils a box, which is something we've never really seen before as well, right? But it is a pirate set.
So from what I can tell, just strictly based on the same rarity distribution that you would see from a set, is that there are no cold foils inside the main packs. So if you open up a pack of high seas, you do not have a chance to get a cold foil. You do have a chance to get a Marvel or an expansion slot card or a legendary or a majestic, stuff like that. But you cannot get a cold foil out of there because they're only in these treasure packs. These treasure
Where
packs
do you
are
think you're seeing the no cold foil pieces? Because the rarity distribution doesn't talk about cold foils?
correct.
Because it says rarity distribution rainbow foil one per pack, the rare, common, basic, and then expansion, basic or expansion slots, which can again kind of confirms there's going to be an expansion slot. So you're
Mhm.
thinking that they just pulled the cold foil out of the base packs completely and shoved it into this,
Yeah,
which
I mean, and you think about it, right? At the end of the day, you're still that the feels bad is not going to be any different, personally,
okay,
because now instead of you opening an entire box and getting a cold foil common piece of equipment, instead you're going to have to open up the thing that's got three cards in it. One of them I'm pretty sure being like an art card, and the other one being a guaranteed, or something else. What the hell was it? It is a.
so
Oh
people are going
shoot!
to
I
start
just had it
selling
here.
these then, I think. I bet you we're going to see a lot of these hit the market for, a price. People are going to want to buy these even though technically they're not really a sellable item. I think that's
They,
something
they
we're going
are
to
they
see.
are not available for sale. That is exactly what that says. They are not available for sale. Now, of course, right? That's not going to stop the open market. Obviously, people can sell these if they want, but I certainly wouldn't buy them loose from anything. I would just purchase a box because at the end of the
Correct.
day, it's going to be the same deal. If you're opening up a box and you get a good thing in your in your treasure pack, and also get a whole bunch of majestics, legendaries, or marvels from your main box,
You
you're making your money off of the thing.
you know
So
what? Now that you say that, because there may like you said, there may not actually be any marvels in the main set.
there are
It,
marvels in the main set.
so then that would that mean that it says one marvel per pack. So you could get a marvel within your 24 packs and also a marvel in your gold pack?
Correct. Correct.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because inside the treasure pack there's the set composition is 11 marvels, 4 legendaries, 52 pirate booty cards, which I don't know that they needed to keep that name. 14 commons and 9 puzzle pieces. These are strictly within the treasure pack. But when
Master
you
Set
look at
Madness is
the
going to lose his mind having to try and
I'm
get a
losing my mind already. Are you kidding me? Like the fact that I don't even want to think about how much money. If I get one of the 17 lost treasures, I'll
well,
be ecstatic.
hold
But
on.
there's
To
no
to give
way.
you perfect distribution odds, which is never going to happen. If the set is 90, that means to get one of each card on a perfect god roll, like stat 1000, you have to buy 90 boxes. That
Yeah.
means that $10,800 at MSRP to just get the 90 cards in that set, one of each.
Yep.
Perfect god roll.
Yeah. And that's obviously like, if you're able to buy a pallet, then you're in a pretty good spot. But I mean, the set also should be available for quite some time. You're also gonna have a lot of people selling the individual cards. once they are pulled. So you can also buy those cards in case, those common cold foils that come out of the set, I'm sure are still going to be dirt cheap whenever they come out of the treasure pack.
When did
So
Rosetta release though? Because if Rosetta's already out of print, that feels pretty fast. Let me
Rosetta
see.
released in
Rosetta September 20th,
September.
2024.
Yeah,
September, October, November, December, January, February,
6 months.
March. Well, okay, this may be a new trend going forward. I mean, not that it's good or bad, but if each set is kind of like Rosetta, again, very specific to the heroes and talents that were in that, maybe doing these shorter windows for these helps kind of get people to move from set to set, or set people like Heavy Hitters is a good just all around generic set, because it has, a lot of cool stuff, but it still has, what, brute cards, warrior cards, guardian cards, generic
Yeah.
cards, but like it doesn't have illusionist cards. It doesn't have, which then right after that, right, you had Part the Mistveil, which kind of covers more bases. You got obviously illusionist and ninja, and then assassin, and then mystic, which is a talent we never had. Then Rosetta covers the wizard piece. So I'm trying to stare and compare between like what might be missing from like that card distribution, because you got wizard and what is Florian? I guess I haven't played much of Florian. He's a rune blade.
It's a Rune Blade.
And then so that was 2.
Yeah, I think the more important thing to
Mech is covered now.
also
Necromancer
just
and
kind of
Pirate's
keep in
covered.
mind is that, like, if a set is only in print for 6 months, right? If something is only in print for 6 months and then is out of print, whenever something is out of print, that does not mean that there was only like 50,000 boxes and nothing else,
No,
right? This is not
don't
like
think there's
first
going to
net
be
printing
a
pricing.
Yeah, don't take this as a FOMO thing if people are going to misconstrue, what I'm saying or whatever Alex is saying. I think that the product is out there. I don't know, obviously none of us know any of the numbers, but it is interesting to see that these windows are closing faster than what used to be what felt like in print for a year, in print for probably longer. I mean, we could probably go back and look at some of the earlier numbers in the different. It was a different era back then, right? Like,
Mhm.
even Welcome to Wraith, right? I mean, that had not only a single print run, alpha and unlimited, right? That's even, I don't even want to try to, it's not even fair to compare pre 2.0 to 2.0. I don't think that's even fair.
No.
So I'm going to look at Uprising, because that's the first 2.0. So looking at Uprising, 212,000 displays, and it was printed March 22. I don't think we know when it went out of print, do we? Do we know the date?
We don't know. I'm not aware of the date in which it immediately went out of print now. But
Okay. Did they announce? Let's see. I wonder if I can Google it.
when they announced the print run, or the print run of the set was it might not have been exactly when they actually got out of print, but there's a print run update for the collector's week.
Yeah, it might have been during an update for one of those. Either way, I still feel like, it seems I'm not really thinking there's going to be like a shortage of any particular card. Now, the higher end collectible stuff, right? If you're really wanting that Outsiders Marvel treatment of the Codex of Frailty, that's now $105 for the regular version, and God only knows what the freaking Marvel treatment is. I'm sure it's stupid expensive, but the base cards are still pretty good. Oh, it's $400. Codex of Frailty Marvel's $400.
Yep.
But the other two are under 100. Trench of Sunken Treasure is now $230. Oh yeah.
Yep. That cold foil, that extended art.
Yeah. I'm glad I bought mine for.
You should see what New Horizons going for right now.
What is what's that from? Outsiders? No.
Aria.
Oh God, what is it?
The cold foils for 150, and they just keep going up. So the rainbow foils are also 150.
Well,
170.
I wonder if probably the timeline's not far enough back, but at a certain point, I remember having to pay even more than 150 for this, if I recall, back in the day for a cold foil.
Well, I mean, Lexi, of course, was a pretty hype deal, but I don't know. I mean, like, I think New Horizon was always. I
Just
think there was a $200 one for it. Like
this
somebody
goes back to
there
the
was.
biggest thing, I guess. I'll say again. I've said multiple times. You said it. If you're going to play the game long term, just pick up every one of every equipment at the cheapest price when it's not in season, and you don't have to worry about it.
Yep.
Ta-da!
Yep.
I mean, the
Easy
regular
peasy. I
Trench of
mean, I
Sunken
bought
Treasure is only
I bought my
$37.
for what? Yeah, I bought my New Horizon for, gosh, $60 when I first bought it,
I
and that's like insane to think about, considering that it's now quite literally gone up $100 in its value just because there is a Ranger in the next set.
I traded one Trench of Sunken Treasure uh, for a guy locally. He gave me all of this. It's just like Majestics and cold foil commons and random other junk and stuff he didn't care about because, I mean, like soul foods coming out of his ears,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But the thing is, right? One day, these cards, Dimensional Crossroads being one of them or whatever, Lumina Ascension, that's a Bolton card that we, Bolt, what is it? Bolting
Bolting
Blade,
Blade.
right? So, oh no, I went too far away. One of these days, these cards, even Dread Scythe may end up being useful, and all these dollar, $2, 50-cent cards that no one cares about, with the exception of, I guess I will finally admit, I don't know when it will be relevant, but poor Rusted Relic. Please give us an alchemist that can use this so that the stonks of these cards can please be like, I want this to hit $1. I really want it to hit $1. I would be ecstatic to see that card hit $1.
I mean, you want to talk about people like considering cards to be bulk. You will not believe what I just went through. I picked up some bulk from a local who had picked it up from his friend who was leaving the game, or was getting rid of his bulk, more specifically. And he gave me this. It came in this big tub, unsorted, in all these all these loose boxes with all these cards just like falling out of them. And I'm like, all right, well, like, I guess I got to get to work on this and get it all sorted, and so
Yep.
that we can start doing stuff. So I looked through everything in there. I was like, okay, cool. This is your standard stuff, a bunch of bulk, going through it. And then I got through the bottom half of the box, and it was just a bunch of like uprising bulk. And I'm like, okay, cool, more uprising bulk. I was running out of dragons to put in Dromai decks. We can go ahead and do this. This is a good stuff. Well, right after the little rainbow foil portion that I was able to find, I found a stack of Majestics this big in somebody's bulk. And I went, okay, cool. Majestics, it's like freezing point
Oh yeah.
and some small
However,
stuff.
I know where you're going to go with this. A lot of stuff in Uprising went from 10, 50 cents, 30 cents. Some of those are now probably, like, you probably found fog downs and other crap like that are now $15 cards, I bet.
I found a fog down. I found 3 erase face, 2 that all you got, 2 take the tempo, 4 hypothermia, one of them rainbow foil. Like, insane stuff in this thing. And so, like, that is somebody who just stopped an uprising and was like, all right, cool, I'm good. I'll
But
put this in
that's the
here. Worry about it.
crazy part about this, right? Those cards, people couldn't pay you to take them away from them back in those days.
Yep.
Like, it
Mm-hmm.
was bulk, and now, it's not. And that's
Yep.
just interesting to see. Like, looking at the high to low, erase face, $17. Out I got $17. Now they quickly fall off, and go from there. But those two being, I would say, really good cards, and they're generic, probably doesn't help the fact. But, outside of those, right? Like, those cards weren't always that. I mean, hell, look at Snag. That's another good example of a card that is
Yep.
just unbelievably, expensive. Hell, Cornet's Peak is a legendary in that set. I hadn't looked at the prices on here in a while, but I remember when that was $5. Like,
Yep.
now it's 16.
You were able to get a cold foil for like $20 of a Cornet's Peak.
Yep.
And now,
I mean,
like, it's
even
so
the
much more
even the
expensive.
Marvel Dragons are still relatively cheap. Like $32 for the Asvali, $32 for Miragai, 30s. I mean, 30s for most of them. A couple of them are 20s. For some reason, I'm not seeing my favorite one on here, which is the 6-1, like the ball lightning version, the really fancy zoom one. Oh, it's nice because it's $19. It's even less.
Oh, Vincerikai.
Vinceric. I love that photo. That art is just, I love it.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah, very, very, very beautiful. And that's the thing. Like, that is something that, again, I don't know how we always end up here, but it is just another. It is just another avenue for me to say that if you find cards that are cheap, even though you are not playing that class or that hero or whatever it might be, and you go, well, I'm currently built up in my CC class. I don't need anything else from it. I'm not going to need to buy anything from the next set because the next set is a bunch of classes that don't matter to me, and I don't really care for them because I'm playing this class instead. Just start buying really cheap Majestics and really cheap legendaries. And then that way, if you ever catch the bug to switch your class or your class or your hero LLs, and you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. I'd have to spend another $750 in order for me to get into another class because I didn't buy these cards at a dirt cheap price. Like, the amount of cards, the amount of blue 3-block generics that went up in price strictly because Gravy Bones said blue card in the text box
I didn't
was
even
enough.
look.
It's insane. It's insane. And none of the hype makes any sense. The only thing people are doing, and the only time you're ever going to see a spike in price like this, is when a new set is announced and the classes and possible mechanics of that set are announced. When those things are announced, that is when you are going to see the market shoot up in a fireworks display of, hey, you remember that card from Crucible of War that was 50 cents that you no longer, you have 17 of because you were just like, oh yeah, I figured I'd just have them. That way I could make sure that I could build decks with them. You're sitting on a gold mine. You bought them all for like 50 cents back in the day, and now you can sell them for $25. That's an insane amount of value. You do not get that kind of return in most TCGs almost ever. And the fact that it happens is crazy good.
Whatever happened with this card? I know, this is from Rosetta. It's Glyph Overlay. That people were speculating if we kind of go back to one interesting, again, very odd side tangent, but you used to be able to look at cards in a set and somehow there was a clue about the next thing that was coming. Well, in reality, right, we had the steampunk mechanologist shaking a hand, right, and we had the necromancer stuff. That kind of got revealed and seems to be correct. But, like, weirdly enough, this Glyph Overlay, does that mean that we're on the horizon for, that's in Rosetta, so it's an older set now, but could there be an illusion that looks like an illusionist or something? Or like, where do they even go? How do they top necromancers and pirates? Like, what the heck is going to have to be after this, man? I do not understand.
That is kind of my whole thing too, is that, like, this is High Seas is truly going to be something that is just probably the most insane hype we've seen for a while. Because let me tell you, as somebody who is and still loves Dromai and how she played and how everything was with her, I know that she was the most represented hero in most events, not because she was good. It's because people liked having a bunch of cool allies on the board that they could turn into their Marvel versions and they could attack their opponent with and utilize their abilities. That is why people enjoyed playing Drone. Obviously, dragons are really cool.
That's why people enjoy playing Illusionist too. Prism has all the board state stuff. It feels more like a Magic game to the Magic-ish players, right? You have permanents and things on the board. Dash can do the same thing, Now I'm assuming the Necromancer and technically even Arachne has more permanent type stuff, right? We're starting to see permanents on the board.
It's going to be important. It's going to be important to see. And I think that's, again, this is something that, like, if Dromai players, when Dromai LL'd, a lot of people were just like, oh, I might take a break. Oh, I might go ahead and I might try a new hero. I might see what else is going on, right? And going from there. But, like, Necromancer is something that the community has wanted for such a long time. After knowing that it was in the set, not to mention the fact that Pirate being a class this is something that we also didn't mention, so strictly because we didn't talk about it because we thought it was a talent. Pirates not in that freaking lore book. So that means that we've got access to like a plethora of whatever the hell LSS wants to make
Dwarves,
as a class to just do it.
dwarves,
Yeah. It's
dwarves,
it's gonna be truly like that's the thing. There's
druids.
gonna be so many things. Druids, there were people who thought druids were gonna come out in outsiders when Peace of Mind was released. They were just like, that's a druid. That's a druid. We're gonna get druids, we're gonna get a mass healing class, and they're gonna be crazy as hell. And then they came out with verdants, and it was like, okay, cool, they kind of heal, I guess. Like that's fine. But it's the concepts are there, and there's little trickles amongst all the different sets in regards to what they're going to do in the future. But that's really it. I mean, like when people have been speculating for these classes for like years now, literal years now, they've been like, okay, cool, when is it going to happen? Maybe this set we're going to have it, this set we're going to have it, this set we're going to have it, and it never came. And now set 16, we got two new classes, two of them being one of they're both being the most popular classes in hype. So there's obviously only up. Like with this being the case, we're only going to see more things exist in the Flesh and Blood era. Every set has been a banger after banger after banger, and we're seeing heroes pop out of the woodworks that we never expected. Fang won a battle hardened, and people were just like, what? Like, wait a minute, Fang won a battle hardened? That hero was garbage. I thought we couldn't win with that thing. And lo and behold, won a battle hardened. Like, there are so many things that are just like a random left turn. And if you're not prepared for it, like you're gonna have to at least pay like a price when it comes to it. Because if you find a hero that you really enjoy the play style of more than the hero you're playing now, and you didn't buy all of those cards when they were cheap, start looking at expansion slot cards. Start looking at expansion
I
slot
need to
cards.
get
Those
the
are so
null
good.
time zone from the hunted, because I feel like I already missed the boat on this. I should have bought them when they were $2, but I feel like that's one of those mechanologist cards that just like in general could do something interesting with any of these classes, or any of the maybe even with the max deck coming or the pirates. But
Mhm.
I need to just get my play set of these and call it a day, because it has crank on it. It is a 0 block, but it is blue. So, yeah,
I mean, when
what
you
was it?
take a look at Cull is another thing. Like Cull is a card from the Hunted that initially, when it was readily available, I think it was selling for about $5 for a non-foil and about $8 for a rainbow foil. Now we're seeing non-foils be like $10 and rainbow foils being 12, $13, which is pretty good considering a lot of things are now getting on the up and up for Vincent. Eugene just did really, really well in a calling or a battle hardened with Rhinar. And so like when people saw that and they were just like, wow, what a fun, silly deck. I would like to buy it. When 3 copies of a Majestic that has not been touched in near a millennia, all of a sudden 7 people take 3 copies of it off the market. That's 21 copies of a card gone that were not touched on the open market for a while. And now all of a sudden they're gone. And when they're gone, when that amount of people, even if it's just 7 players who want to play Rhinar, that affects the market. People start seeing that there are less copies in there, which makes them want to raise their prices, which means that people need to start buying them at higher prices, which means that they start selling for those higher prices so people can play those cards, and so on and so forth, until a vicious cycle of that hero being no longer available in CC. Those cards come down in price, and then eventually that hero gets reprinted in a different way further down the line. Those cards then spike up in price, and we do this vicious cycle over and over and over again until somebody finally learns that they can buy cards at a cheap price, get their own play sets, and then be able to play whatever the hell they want forever. And it's beautiful, but you got to be on top of it.
I'm still glad that our group really doesn't care about proxying. We get to see some interesting stuff come out of that too. So that's kind of nice to see some some exotic, or oh, here's this, and especially for the player that's, we got a guy, I think he plays Yu-Gi-Oh, and he kind of plays Flesh and Blood, and it's, I'd like for him to buy the cards at some point, right? That'd be nice, but at the same token, I don't mind if I'm playing against somebody who's proxying the deck. I mean, I just want to be, enjoying the event. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, I don't expect every person who gets into Flesh and Blood to be like, oh yeah, I will purchase a tunic. It's the first thing I'm going to do. Like, no, buy an armory deck. Let me know how you feel about the game. Did you not like that armory deck? Spend another $40. Go buy this other armory deck. Let me know how you feel about that one. Go ahead and
wow.
spend another $40. Go ahead and get this armory
back
deck.
up to
And it ends up
150.
being enough. Yeah, they're expensive. And it's again, it's just because we get more people who come in. And if like let's just assume, right? 1 in every 3 players, which is probably a significantly lower statistic. 1 in every 3 players that gets introduced to Flesh and Blood stays. And that happens, 20 times, right? If 20 players within the span of a couple weeks from all around the world get access into Flesh and Blood and start wanting to play, and the first thing their friends tell them is purchase a tunic, that's 20 tunics off the market, because people are going to go, okay, cool. Yeah, I am really invested in this. I want to play this. Let me sell like, a few cards from my Magic collection or from my Yu-Gi-Oh collection or whatever, get the money to go purchase this so I can start playing this game. And that is exactly what happens. That's where that, I don't think people are coming into Flesh and Blood with no job, no income, and are going, oh yeah, I'm going to drop $900 on a deck because that's just what I have. Like, people are usually selling out from other games to get into this, or they're saving up as they continue and they start with an armory deck and go, okay, cool. I'll just get an armory deck and I'll upgrade it as I go, as I earn more at my job or whatever. So,
I mean, looking at other interesting cards, just Command and Conquer, still sitting around the $90, even with the add-in of the legendary version that they came out with and the extended legendary or whatever. So,
Yep. I mean, cards are good. Like, it's a good card, and so that's usually what you're expecting.
I can't believe the daily average sold over
to see.
a
I mean,
month
the fact that
on the Command and Conquer extended art is $300.
the white border Command and Conquer is $70, $71.95.
Yep, still very expensive.
And that's so cheap compared to what it was like 2 months ago.
It was $100 in December, according to the chart, and it's average selling about 2 in the last year. It says it sold 600 of those. So think about that. 600 is only 300 play sets, because 3 is a, or no, 200 play sets.
That's 200 play sets.
200 play sets.
Yeah, but I think also a lot of people are. I know that at least I've personally also given the advice to new players to not buy 3 immediately. Like, first and foremost, what you can do is you can obviously play on Talishar or proxy them to determine whether or not this card is necessary for your build to quite literally be a better version of your deck. The card is good, it's not necessary. But if it's a card that you view is going to be worth it in your deck, you can proxy it or play on Talishar, determine its value, and then make that purchase if need be. But if you're just like, yeah, I just want to buy 1, and then kind of work with that, you're halfway through a Blitz playset, you're a third of the way through a CC playset, and at that point, you can still upgrade your deck and utilize that 1 CNC across like 18 different decks if you really want to. So you don't have to buy a playset at the same time. You can buy 1 and then save up for another one later on down the road while you're continuing to get more of your core staple cards for your class.
I mean, Mastercog now is almost $100. That's crazy. That was a $30 legendary or fabled for a while.
Yep.
I did trade for the Schism, the new Chaos gym.
Oh, you got the Schism Chaos? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm close to having most. I still need to get the heavy hitters fabled. I haven't looked. It's been a while since I've actually done rarity fabled and just looked at what's out there, because now with each set, right? I still know I don't have the Deathmatch Arena. I'm gonna still have to at some point track me down one of the Rosetta Will of Arcane. But gosh, Corsham still only $30 they're $40. Blood or Decay, 30, $40. But library is back up to 200.
I think I might need to sell my Shelter from the Storm extended art.
It's stupid expensive if that's what you just
Yeah,
found. Yeah.
it is $380 roughly for that card. That's
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, holy moly, would you rather have a case of card set? Hell, trade it for a case of the Hunted and then get another one.
yeah, that's the gambler's fallacy, right? But like, I'm gonna be honest, I've had nothing but pure luck out of Hunted boxes. Like I've opened 3 boxes of the Hunted. 3 boxes.
They were juiced.
And one box, a Shelter and a CNC in the same back. Second box, one Shelter non-foil, the other Shelter extended art. The third box, Shelter in the first pack. Like I've only pulled Shelters from my boxes. And I've seen people lose so much on these boxes, and I pull at least a Shelter a box. Now, I'm not saying that's like going to happen all the time, because obviously that's crazy. But I'm also getting these boxes at a pretty solid deal because I get store credit at my LGS for if I top 3, top 4, and I do that frequently. So I get store credit that I get to use for boxes. And so I bought my box last night that I purchased was a box of the Hunted. I got it for $50, and that was a steal. I got a $50 box. I pulled a Shelter of the Storm, which doubles the price of the box that I paid for, and then I got a whole bunch of other Majestics and stuff through it as well. So
I can't believe, like, if I had that extended art Shelter that you had, I would be trading that toward a Marvel Teklavosson, because now I'm seeing people are selling it for like almost like $500. So that's damn near the cost of one of those. I mean, I'd rather have that over the EA Shelter. So like,
I think your odds are better to just like open up a case of Bright Lights, because you can probably get it for pretty cheap. So,
dude, I don't know. After all this stuff, I bet you Bright Lights has gone up. People might.
There's no way. There's no way. No way it's gone up.
Bright Lights is an amazing set.
I think Shelter from the if I sold my Shelter from the Storm extended art, the one thing it would go to is the fact of the matter is I can get an entire case of High Seas on pre-order for the same price as one of those cards. And so it might be worth it to me to do it, just because the only reason I want to keep it is because I'm a master set collector. But I also know that in order for me to collect the master set of the set, I would need to also get all of the Marvels. I would need to get the Command and Conquer extended art. And then I need to get all the other legendaries that I'm missing in cold foil. So yeah, exactly. If I'm going to get all the pirate booty, I need to get all of those as well, which is again just like more down the drain as far as that's concerned. But I don't know. I mean, like at the end of the day, it's just about trying to figure out what exactly I want to price cards for. I think it's more beneficial for me if I'm going to even want to play Necromancer to buy a case of High Seas. And so in that specific situation, I think it does make sense for me to sell it for a case of High Seas if I could. But I don't know. Well,
apparently there's already been 27
we'll
pre-orders.
See exactly what happens at that point,
of
I guess.
The High Seas booster boxes on TCG Player. So it looks like somebody's already pre-sold, 20 or 30 of those, which again, the hype is I haven't seen those kind of this is literally probably day one it's been put out. I haven't seen those kind of pre-sale numbers on TCG Player for like a day one product launch since probably Uprising. So
Yep. It's a wild one, but the thing is that these cards are really well sought after. And I think that what I'm going to start doing, probably at least on my own end, is on top of doing gameplay videos, I think I'm going to actually start doing some pretty like hardcore collecting. Maybe not like hardcore, because I certainly don't have like hardcore collecting money, but even if it's like once a month, I purchase a Marvel that's like $100, $200 or something. Like that's pretty good. Is if I just stop buying boxes and just simply buy a single.
I've
Like
been
that's
focusing on buying the, I'll call it the under $50 Marvels. So when I can find them for 10, 20, $30,
hmm
I will buy $100 worth of those. And then that will be, like me buying a box, but I'm getting something that I know versus an unknown.
yeah,
So,
yep, it's a good call. And so, and especially as I continue to like to, to get stuff for master sets, I know I'm still about like $800 worth of cards. I have like 14 cards I think left in my master set that I need to get for Uprising. And I think at that rate, it's not too bad of an ordeal. I think the one thing that always gets me is that I want to make sure that I'm not getting them from TCG player. Like I'd rather get them from a local or
mm-hmm.
from somebody who I know is like taking care of the card. Because I'm sure there are so many people who just like rip open their first box, see it, and then go, "Oh, I can just sell it on TCG player for this amount of money," and just
Well,
try
apparently
to make
there
that
was a
happen.
post here on Twitter that is worth maybe talking about. It says this is awful and should not be normalized. This is worse for the game than Starve Overwise, and it shows a photo of Shelter of the Storm with a near mint price of 114. Has a store name. I'm not going to name it. I'm not trying to shame the store. It's the price of the card, but it has 10,000 views and a bunch of people are commenting on it, up to and including that, like, pricing seems to be a problem, but like I think at the same token it's supply and demand. If you're buying it because you're playing in these tournaments and people are actively buying it at those prices, then the price won't go down. It's just going to go up because the supply is going to keep getting eaten up.
Yep,
It's
that's that. This is economics 101. It's the matter of fact that if after if you're like, oh my gosh, I need this card in order for my deck to be good, right? In order for you to compete at your locals, even, which is just like insane. You should not. It is not a necessary card for you to win. Period. If you need a card that is necessary for you to win, you can just replace Shelter from the Storm with a Fate Foreseen. You're in a fine spot, or a Sink Below if you're not already running Sink Belows. Literally the same
somebody said
same concept.
Fate for Scene's going to have to do. I only got 350, brother. It's like,
Yeah, exactly.
gosh.
Like it's seriously so like you have the opportunity to play it. And the only difference between a Shelter from the Storm and a Fate Foreseen is that one of them ops, and the other one prevents 3 1 points of damage in a meta where currently that is relevant because of Flick Knives. That's
Hmm.
like it. That is the only thing. Outside of that, the card just blocks 4. It's just a 4 block defense reaction that we already have 2 of. Technically 3 of, if you want to consider another freaking crazy one that everybody gets to use. Springboard Somersault. I don't know if you know what this card does, but quite
It's great.
literally, it blocks for 2, and then if you play it from the arsenal, it's a defense reaction. If you play it from the arsenal, it blocks for 2 more. It blocks for 4, which means that you get to play another card, and this one's yellow, which means you can pitch more for resources later on. This is
Yep.
like it's the cards. The only reason the cards were the $100 is because right now it's very relevant, but it's not always going to be relevant. If you're going to purchase anything in regards to, you can buy for 3 copies of regular non-foil Shelter, you can buy the really expensive extended art version that's hard to pull. That is a worthy thing to purchase. You should have purchased it when it was $250,
I
but
should have.
that is something that is more up the alley to purchase if you're looking for a big purchase. If you are just looking to play the game, Shelter from the Storm is not the thing that is going to make you win your games. What it is going to do is simply give you the peace of mind of knowing that you don't have to have this. I got very lucky. I pulled all of mine from boxes. I effectively spent, if you want to consider it, right? I spent 90 on one box. I spent 60 on another and 50 on another. So overall, I spent, what is that?
$200.
$200. So I spent $200. I got a whole bunch of other Majestics on top of it, and I happened to luckily get 3 copies of Sink Below and an extended art. That is all luck. That is not skill. Nothing about that is the case. I could sell all 3 of my copies of Shelter from the Storm right now and be totally fine. You want to know why? I'm playing Vincent, a hero that does not run that card, and I don't need it. I don't need the card.
And
So
I don't think Nitro Mechanoid Dash, I don't think Dash Data Doll, Dash IE, I don't. They're not really probably going to run
No,
those.
Necks aren't
Probably
going to run
not.
it. No, no, they're not going to run it. If anything,
So
I wouldn't be surprised that in high seas, Mechanologist gets its own fun, funky crank defense reaction thing.
that would be
Like that,
fantastic.
see, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if those things occur and they try to make and to add these additional things to kind of like bridge that gap and allow for these classes to provide different ways to play, that's something that they can utilize in those defense reaction steps. But I don't think this is not. This is the only reason this card is this price right now is just as you had said. People are purchasing the card. And if people are continuing to purchase the card at $100, whether it be players or collectors or scalpers or whatever it might be, the fact that people are purchasing it at that price and they are selling at that price and they're going to continue to go up, eventually at some point there's going to be a level in which people are going to go, I already have my 3 copies. The majority of the community already has their 3 copies. They don't need any more. They'll stop being bought. The price will go down. Or people will just straight up go, I will not purchase this card at that price. And if the
Correct.
majority of the people say, hey, I'm not going to purchase that card at that price, it's going to start dropping until eventually it gets to a price where people are willing to purchase it and then they will. That is just the economics of a market. And so when you look at that, this is not something that LSS is just like we short printed a Majestic that we printed 3 copies of in a set, mind you, the non-foil, the rainbow foil, and the extended art. They didn't short print this card. The Hunted was not short printed. It was not something that was like, oh yeah, we only printed 40,000 boxes. Everybody figure it the hell out. Like none of that occurred. And so simply what it is it's just it's either people assuming that they need this card in order for them to be a good player, or it's people who are actually trying to utilize this card at a professional level because they expect the heroes they're going to go against for this effect to be more relevant. But you know what else they printed in the Hunted? If you are really trying to be like, that's the reason why the card is good, is because it's got that. Calming Breeze does literally the exact same thing. It's a rare, and you can get it out of the packs. It's a rare, it's an instant, and it does the exact same effect as Shelter from the Storm, but it just doesn't block 4. The only thing that makes Shelter from the Storm good is the fact that you have the diversity of either blocking 4 on a physical attack or blocking 3 individual pings of 1 when you need it. That is it. Its versatility is allowing it to be a little bit different. But if you're really like, that's what's going to make me different, that's what's going to make my hero better into a Syndra heavy meta or a Dagger heavy meta, just play Calming Breeze. Just play Calming Breeze. I guarantee you it'll be the same effect. You can park it in an arsenal. If somebody attempts to CNC you, you can play it out for free, which you can't do with Shelter from the Storm, mind you. Because Shelter from the Storm is an arsenal and somebody tries to CNC you, you can't play it. So it's there's so many people who also look at the card. I just realized that this happened at my armory. There are people who think that you can discard Shelter from the Storm from your arsenal. You can't. That's not what the card reads. You cannot discard from your arsenal. That's not how this works. So
because it would have to be in your hand to be discarded. Because your
exactly.
hand is the only place you can discard from. You can't discard from your arsenal.
Exactly. And there are people who just assume that this is exactly what's the case. Again, leading with poor information, allowing people to buy more things, and if they believe that this card is going to be the hot thing, that their deck is necessary. I've not seen a single deck list that has said Shelter from the Storm is what makes this deck work, because it's not. It's not a card that makes the deck work. It is simply a good utility into the current meta. But it's not hard to pull. It's not some crazy infamous card that only 1 in every 7,000 boxes you pull a Shelter from the Storm. That's not the case. It's you literally I've got 3 loose boxes out of every single time. It's not even been from a fresh case or anything. 3 loose boxes, and I've pulled a Shelter from every single one of them. It's not a hard card to pull. It's not incredibly rare, and so it shouldn't be $100. You shouldn't have to spend $100 for it. If you can't afford it and you can only afford Fate for Scenes, that's awesome. Same card, literally the same
I just
card.
love how my generality is I try to not go into the finance world, and we always seem to freaking end on or somehow land in the card finance world on these, and it's just it's
Yeah.
so tied into the game, but it's also like a lot of the like decisions on what to buy are all based in the metric of a dollar cost across what you're trying to do and a value of the thing, or is the product worth it to buy, right? Those kind of questions. And you know, well, I think we're kind of the point where I feel like we should probably wrap this up based on the timer I had over here running.
I
So
did rant a little too long. So
no. I enjoy listening, and hopefully, I see you, the people that are watching this. I know I don't get big 10,000 plus numbers or 1,000 plus people, but I'm seeing these get watched, and I'm seeing them get up into the low triple digit numbers, 200, 300 views per some of these. And I'm curious, obviously people are watching this because you want to watch it. So if you're doing that, why not subscribe? Why not, hang out with us more? Check out other stuff. You comments, right? I don't see anybody comment. A couple people comment, but I'd like to see more comments, because then we have
yeah.
other things that we can talk to you about, because
Yep.
that is part of the interaction world.
Yeah,
that we
let us
live
know.
in.
Let us know. Let us know what you want us to talk about on the next episode, because we'll be more than happy to talk any specifics, whether it be, how do you feel the metas go? I mean, I personally can talk a little bit more like deeper on the overall like CC meta, I guess, but like even still, if you want to learn more about the casual stuff, we're both pretty knowledgeable on that front. If you want to talk market things, we can talk market stuff and talk that. We have the ability to make this happen. And so if there's something you guys want to see, let us know. We'll gladly go ahead and take a crack at it. So
I also want to start brewing. We didn't get time to do it today, but I do want to do some deck tech stuff and some brewing when we get more flushed out max, or flushed out, gravy. Make the gravy train flow. I'd love to talk about through those. I want to see a commoner version of these. I'm sure you're already thinking about that stuff too. But
I'm already thinking about it.
I
The second I see common, the second I see common allies, it's all my channel is going to be
I'm curious if we will. It may be
for
rares
a
and
while.
up, which
So
doesn't that. I mean, that's how Dromize couldn't really be played in commoner, could she?
yeah, I mean, she was also able to make Ashwings, which were
Okay.
common token things. So like, if you wanted to consider like the lowest of the low of a 2/1 skeleton, like that, make that like a token that Gravy Bones can make, or there are cards like a Rake the Embers that can make 3 of them, and
I'm
2 of
sure
them are
there'll be
1 of them.
options. That's
Yeah,
what I hope.
but
So.
it'll be good. I'm very, very excited. But yeah, once we get more information, we'll definitely do some brewing.
Well, until next time, may your games be fun and your friendships grow. Cheers. Alex, it's been a blast. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Thanks. It's always a pleasure. And yeah, make sure to subscribe and like the video and let us know if there's any topics you want to talk about. But otherwise, just continue to have fun in the flesh and blood. That's all we want.
Bye.
Yeah.
Jacob Cut here. Boop. Yeah, this makes my editing life easier because I can look for like a loud, stupid noise. So
It's funny because when you so legitimately when you clap, I don't hear it.
oh really?
Yeah. I don't hear shit. There's no noise.
I need to get thumb symbols and just be like.
Yeah.
I bet you that's probably Discord clipping that out. I think
I believe, yeah.
I know that like Teams, which is the program that our work uses to talk, and even I guess I've seen on other chat applications, sometimes like Facebook Messenger, loud noises get gets silenced out. So
Yeah,
it's
makes sense.